The Accidental Entrepreneur is brought to you through our affiliate relationships with the following sponsors. Digital Accelerant, the digital mobile business card that generates leads. Text the word law to 21,000 to get connected and learn how to get your own digital business card. And by Fetch Internet and Fetch Pro, the secure, high-speed app that eliminates the need to pay for hotspots or use public unsecure Wi-Fi. And Printify, the online, on-demand print shop for all your corporate merchandise. Be sure to visit our online store and get your own podcast merch. Listen to all of our sponsors' commercials later in this episode and follow their links in the show notes to learn more about their products and services.
It's really a case of selling yourself and your idea, because at this point in time, you don't have customers, you don't have revenue, you have an idea.
Right.
So someone really needs, and that same idea can go well or badly. And what really defines it is the person behind that idea. How do they think? How do they approach a complex problem? How are they going to tackle the multitasking involved? How will they prioritize? Even if you think about cash management, let's say your business is going in one direction and there's an exogenous shock or something tragic happens like COVID. And all of a sudden you have to rethink your business model. Well, you have to show that you're the kind of person that can have a backup plan, think creatively, execute that plan. And so to do all of this, you obviously, you need to be creative, you need to be good at problem solving, but you also need to have a good set of processes and people and team around you.
The information provided in these episodes is for entertainment purposes only. It is not a guarantee of success or to be construed as advice of any kind. You should always seek advice from local licensed professionals before making any decisions.
The dictionary defines an entrepreneur as a person who organizes and manages any enterprise, especially a business, usually with considerable initiative and risk. People often start a business without much choice, perhaps due to a job loss or just being dissatisfied at work, and they come up with an idea they just know can be successful. They become entrepreneurs by accident. That is to say, their success or failure happens by accident, not with intention. My name is Mitch Beinhacker. I'm a corporate attorney and a business advisor. You're listening to The Accidental Entrepreneur, my podcast about how to achieve success on purpose, not by accident. Join me along with our monthly guests where we share our knowledge and help you get a hold of your business. And now on to today's episode. Just to remind you, the podcast is produced and brought to you by my legal practice, Beinhacker Law. We provide business and estate services to entrepreneurs, inventors, and other small business owners. Whether you're just getting started or you've been operating for a long time, contact us for all your general legal needs, from contracts to client agreements, from purchasing a new location to onboarding a new partner or key employee. We draft all types of agreements and handle most business transactions. For more information about our products and services, visit beinhackerlaw.com, or you can follow our link in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's interview.
Hi, I'm Neeta, and I work with CEOs and founders of tech startups. I enable them to fundraise third-party capital from venture capitals, VCs, and investors. And I do this by building business models, creating pitch decks, but more importantly, advising on the process, what to look out for, what the pitfalls are, and how to go about valuing their company and raising the money that's right for them.
All right, Neeta, thanks for so much coming on the podcast. I know we missed each other a little bit and then we spoke. Who had connected us? Do you remember? I always ask this question. I sound like a broken record all the time.
Yeah. It was actually Erin Harper from Be The Upside.
Yes.
She connected us. I'm a part of her network. And,
okay. Yeah, Erin's great. I refer her people all the time. Yeah. So you're a member of the Upside? You're part of the Upside community?
I am part of the Upside community, amazing community, and I've grown a lot with it. So
yeah, I hear very good things about it. Mostly women, though. I don't think it was intended that way, but
although there are men, there are men.
Some men now.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
They probably feel special because there's not as many of them, but yeah, there definitely are.
Okay. All right. So let's get into kind of your background, where you're from, what your training is, how you got into what, because you didn't just wake up one day and said, "Oh, I'm going to be a consultant and, advisor to CFOs and CEOs and help them raise money." We know that didn't happen overnight. So maybe you can go backwards and tell me about your history and your backstory.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in London, and actually I most of my sort of teenage years, when you're thinking about what profession you want to go into, it was really about what can I do that can give me a stable income that I can grow systematically, and that was really important for me and for my family, because our background is in India and escaping sort of poverty and upheaval in life. Stability.
So was that your grandparents left India to go to London?
Yeah, exactly.
You were born and raised in London?
I was born and raised in London. We came from India to London via Africa. So there's a generation of my family that was born in Africa, in Kenya.
Okay.
But I was born in London. And so stability was a big thing, as well as something that is reputable and interesting. And so after doing economics at the London School of Economics.
Great school.
It was a really amazing school in London. I met lots of great people who I'm still friends with now. And I started my career at PwC, which again was for me a great brand name, a good reputation and exposure to private equity, hedge funds, and financial services world.
Sure. In England, you were with PwC over there or over here?
That was PwC in London, and I also worked in Australia, in Sydney. So I was on some international assignments and really understanding the nuts and bolts of financial statements and how they work, and the business environment and how it relates to those financial statements, how you make sure you're controlling your business and growing in the right fashion. Right. That was like an amazing foundation.
Of course. That's all the things that business owners don't want to do, avoid like the plague, and it gets them in trouble every time.
Yeah, and I dedicated a good amount of my life to it and enjoyed the experience. And I also became a chartered accountant along the way, which is like a hybrid of a CPA and an MBA. Most CFOs in the UK have to have that as a qualification. Sure. And then after a while there, about 5 years, I decided that I wanted to work within a company and get more exposure to actually being in the business. And so I joined BlackRock in London, and then I later moved from London to New York with BlackRock, which was an amazing experience because I actually got to help grow a business.
Now, BlackRock is a venture capital group, or are they a consultants like McKinsey? As
it's the world's largest asset management.
It is. Okay, that's what I thought.
By AUM. Yeah,
right. That's what I thought. Okay.
So they offer retirement plans. They do private equity and like the whole range of types of investments someone could want. Right. A company or a person.
They have consumer side too. They deal with wealthy individuals as well.
They do, but most of what they do is through distributors or a platform that ultimately will obviously serve the end consumer as maybe a retirement fund that you're investing in as you're working. So,
sure. They're dealing with the reps, the right, and then they're bringing it to the customer. Got it. Yeah.
Exactly. And it grew a lot while I was there. So they scaled their business. They were innovating in alternatives for the retail customer, which didn't exist about 10 years ago or so. So it was a great place to be. And they also have a platform, Aladdin, which is really used not just by them, but by other competitors who want insight into their investment management operation.
It's their proprietary system, and then they sell the information or whatever to like Bloomberg.
It was developed in-house when BlackRock was founded.
Got it. Okay.
So that was an amazing experience. And for me, coming from London to New York, I really grew up with BlackRock. And what I wanted to do was pivot my career to get more exposure to the consumer side. So I joined Citigroup, and that was in the consumer bank. So thinking and working with credit cards and bank accounts and everything that every consumer needs to live their life. And that was really great in terms of, for me, the angle I was working at is what do the investors think? And that's, if you're a public company, how do you explain to investors why your operations and finances are as they are? So I became really good at teasing out facts from the data and putting a narrative to financials that really told a story that aligned to the strategy of the business. Because when you're being looked upon by regulators and investors and Wall Street, you have to be really, really careful and really focused. And so it was a very good training ground for me.
Right.
So yeah, and that's, I think that's about the point I pivoted to start my own consultancy, which was a really big move for me, and really driven by wanting to do something different, and work with people on a more personal level. Like what I do right now is working with the CEO.
Right, because they're smaller companies.
Yeah, understanding what they're about, what their business is about, and then using my expertise to help them raise funds.
So now, did you have clients when you jumped ship and said, I'm going to start my own consultancy? Did you have some people to take with you, or did you have no customers at the time?
I had no customers. Yeah, I just, I really had to leverage my network. And it was an amazing network because of where I'd been. It was London, Sydney, New York, financial services companies. And so I really leveraged that. And I was involved with startups and entrepreneurs through my own social
when you
circles.
were working at the bigger companies.
At those companies and my own social circles, and I worked in nonprofits as well as on a voluntary basis. So I really leveraged all that, and got really good at communicating, because ultimately when you start a business, that's what it's about.
Well, you were well received though. I mean, pretty much they're like, well, Neeta, if you're on your own, we want you to come and help us. Is that?
It varied. Some people didn't need my services, but that's okay, because it's really just great to explain what you're doing.
Of course.
For me, otherwise, it's just learning about what everyone else is up to and what's going on in business and the ecosystem. But I realized as I was having these conversations that there was definitely a need for my services, and I also was able to hone in on what I wanted to offer and where my value was. And I saw that there was a big gap between a founder, an entrepreneur, a CEO, and what they're doing day to day and growing their business, and what is going on, and the thinking and the motivations behind the VC venture capital world. And I was able to bridge that gap because of my experience, because of the fact I'm a CFA charter holder and I've studied investments and all of that. I can bring together and really help CEOs and founders navigate raising funds, valuing their company, thinking about how much they need, how to reach out to VCs, what to do, what to look out for if they are offered funds, what are the terms of that money, and understanding what the implications may be further down the line. And with most term sheets and deal sheets, when it comes to VC funds, you don't know what the impact is going to be, because it will play out differently depending on what happens to your business.
Yeah.
So really understanding that is important. To do all of this fundraising when you're trying to also grow your business, get your brand recognition, get your recurring revenue up. It's really tough, just from a time perspective, from a knowledge and experience perspective. So I pride myself on really partnering with CEOs. And that's where I am right now. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. So maybe we can talk about that, because I think that I deal with a lot of companies. I actually got an email today from a company that's, they're in the digital podcasting kind of space. They have a company called On Air Brands, and they're looking to raise money. Maybe they will have raised money by the time this episode comes out. And they said, who do you know who can look at the deal sheet? And I said, well, a lawyer. I said, well, I can look at it, but I don't really work in that space. So I referred them to a young lawyer that I know in the city who does that. But they probably would learn a lot from, using your services. So I get a lot of calls about raising money. Not necessarily through VCs. Sometimes people think that they can just go to an angel investor and get money, go to a pitch contest, but it doesn't usually work that way. Got to start with friends and family. So what are the challenges that you see when dealing with these kind of business owners that are trying to raise money? Because some of the tech startups are younger people, right? They have an idea and a beta test or whatever they're doing, and they're trying to raise capital.
Yeah, sure. No, that's exactly right. If you're a founder, you're trying to raise capital. The thing that what I see and what I would say is that you really, you have options, right? You could bootstrap your business and not raise funds. But eventually, if you really want to scale and grow and be big, you probably are going to need more funds than you yourself can put in, and also expertise. So, that's about the reason why someone might want a VC. I do try and advise that, friends and family, if you can, raise with friends and family first.
Right.
That's a great position to be in, because when you raise with VCs, there is going to be a certain level of institutional things that you need to add to your business. Like they will probably have a seat on the board and have to have a say, or even the right to veto any big decisions.
Right. You may not even have a board.
Right. But if you decide you want to go take your business in a certain direction, you typically won't be able to unless the VC is on board, which is great when you have a great relationship with the VC.
Right.
But it's really just about knowing that it's different from when you are, on your own. You lose some of that independence, and with that you get the money and the experience, which is great. So the other thing is obviously the incentives, and VCs are probably thinking about what their valuation is going to be and how they will exit at the right stage.
Of course.
You may be thinking about it slightly differently. So the friends and family round can be really useful. So that what you want to do when you're starting a company is think about, what is my product market fit? Understand your customer, who your target customer is, what their top 1 to 2 needs are, and are you able to build a product that meets those needs? So all of this takes time and money. And then after that, whenever you do go to a VC, everything you say has to be backed by data. I mean, you may have all the passion, all the commitment to the business, hard work and diligence, but when it comes to pitching to a VC, that doesn't mean anything unless you have data to back it up.
Right.
So that's when things like, market research, knowing your customer, having a financial plan that shows how you're going to scale the company, all of that comes in really, really pivotal.
Yeah, I think that a lot of small business owners, like we were saying that off the mic, right? It's like a lot of small business owners are entrepreneurs. They're very right brain, right? They're creative. They like to be creative. They want to skip. They're all, full of it, and they're excited. But it's the left brain side that, to you and I, that's creative, right? On the financial side, but it's a lot of minutia, and it's a little monotonous to people, and it's a little overwhelming for them. So they avoid the things that will make them successful. And that is exactly what you said, knowing your customer and your marketplace, and knowing your financials and your cash flow and what your numbers, really look like. And I think during difficult financial times like we're going through, you evaporate your cash flow, and it really like clears the room. You're like, oh my God, we weren't making any money. It was just supporting our life. We were just going from one month to the next and, dealing with each kind of hurdle. And if you're going to go out and say, listen, I want to grow the business, and there may be some real opportunities right now for investors. Let's put VCs and angels aside. Let's say friends and family, local people want to help businesses, right? You have to make sure you have the financials, right, that tell that story, because even if the person doesn't know how to read financials, they're going to bring it to somebody who says, right. Well, this makes no sense.
It's really a case of selling yourself and your idea, because at this point in time, you don't have customers, you don't have revenue, you have an idea.
Right.
So something really needs, and that same idea can go well or badly. And what really defines it is the person behind that idea. How do they think? How do they approach a complex problem? How are they going to tackle the multitasking involved? How will they prioritize? Even if you think about cash management, let's say your business is going in one direction and there's an exogenous shock or something tragic happens like COVID, and all of a sudden you have to rethink your business model. Well, you have to show that you're the kind of person that can have a backup plan, think creatively, execute that plan. And so to do all of this, you obviously, you need to be creative, you need to be good at problem solving, but you also need to have a good set of processes and people and team around you. And that's why for people like me, it's really great to work with founders at a point in time when it's not easy to do all those things, either because it's really down to your skill set and your time, right? You may have the skill set, but you don't want to spend the time doing that, or you don't have that specific expertise. I think for founders to be, or any CEO or company to be successful, you really want to align your time and expertise to your ultimate business objectives, which may be growing your revenue, growing your brand, growing your customers, and making sure you're spending that time probably means hiring people, or to fill in gaps in time, filling gaps in skill sets. There's a lot you can do there.
Yeah, I guess at that level, they're really investing in you, because they'd have nothing else to go on if it's really a startup. Now so there are people that have startups and they're raising capital before they even have an operating business?
Yes, they are. But what they should have at that point in time is the ability to explain why their business is compelling, why it's the right business to invest in. And that's really driven by a couple of things. First of all, it's market size. Are they really targeting a market that's big enough to grow? If the entire market of what you want to do is only worth, let's say, $1 million, well, you're not going to grow your revenue that much more than that. If it's a 30 billion industry, then you have a chance of growing your revenue to 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, whatever that may be, obtaining unicorn status. So that's really important before. You don't need to have an operating business, but you need to be in a market that is big and impactful. And then you need to have data to back what you're thinking and why. So what are the needs that of your customers that you're trying to address in that market? And how did you find out those needs? It's not really about going out and talking to a few people. You have to be a bit systematic about collecting data. And maybe that data, it doesn't have to be massively expensive. It can simply be something like using SurveyMonkey and sending out a survey to the right people and a good number of people to get a sense of what is missing for the customers.
Right.
Or if you already work in that space, you're gathering information. So that's really important. And you need to have an idea of what your product would be and how you would address these needs. And if you're able to demonstrate those key things, then yes, you can absolutely raise money and then use that money to go ahead and scale your operations. But when you do raise money, it's important to know you have to show a plan of how you intend to use that money.
Right. Well, you need a business plan, right? And a pitch deck.
Business plan, a pitch deck. Pitch deck is definitely useful, a financial model to show how you're going to grow your business. And it's part of it is to show investors, but part of it is for yourself, because realistically, if you are really going to grow a business from 0 to 1 million in revenue, you really need to know what's your sales funnel, what's the time it takes to close a deal. Right. Are you targeting enterprise customers or small and medium businesses?
Yeah.
How many people do you need to outreach to turn, all those phone calls, all those sales calls into a demo or something more specific that will ultimately lead to someone willing to sign a contract or put their credit card on a website or give it to you. There's a lot of work that goes into that. And then how do you make that a repeatable process? All of that is just the sales side. Of course, you want the product development side, which may involve engineers if it's a software type product. Right. It may involve manufacturing or building a product physically, if it's like a beauty product or a clothing item or something. So, there's a lot of things to work through. So you need to bring that all together in a model that will then show well, what would be the impact on my P&L, on my cash flow, and how's this going to play out as I get more customers and so on.
Right.
So I think it's a really useful tool for business owners as well as investors.
Oh, yeah. It's probably one of the top 2 or 3 reasons why businesses fail, because they don't have anything in writing. They don't have a plan that they're working on, that they're focusing on, that they're adjusting, that they're testing, that all those types of things. It's just a huge gap in the business. Do you find that with a business plan that it's better for a business owner to show the different, verticals in their business? I find that when they're on TV, like let's say Shark Tank, for example, everybody knows Shark Tank, right? So it's like a consumer crazy show. It's more entertainment than anything. You and I both know that. But it seems that the sharks get, somebody comes in and they have all these great ideas. And well, we did this and then we tried this, now we're doing that. And they're like, oh, you're all over the place. You got to focus on this. And then they drop out. What's been your experience? Is it better to be one way or the other?
Here's a word from our sponsors. Uplift your marketing and reinforce your brand with a digital business card from Digital Accelerant. Use a text marketing combination to stand out in front of your competition. Digital business cards make you memorable and most of all help you bring in new business through its warm lead generator. Motion graphics, intro, outro, and inspirational videos can be added during setup. Text the word LAW to 21,000. That's LAW to 21000 to learn how to get your own digital business card. Suffering from slow internet speed? Worried about hackers? Fetch Pro gets the internet from your smartphone to your Windows and Mac computer without paying for a hotspot. Always get the fastest, most stable, and secure internet access on your computer with Fetch Pro. Follow their affiliate link on our website to learn more and get connected with Fetch. Printify is the online service that simplifies and automates the process of sourcing and creating print-on-demand products branded with your company logo, product, or service. Printify is a better alternative to pre-purchasing and warehousing your merchandise for distribution or sale. Follow their link from our website to learn how to set up your own online store. And be sure to visit our online store and get yourself some podcast merch. Follow the link in the show notes to learn more about all of our sponsors. And now back to our show.
I think when you're starting up, it's great to have a niche. It really helps to hone in your own mindset on a specific target client, and you become an expert in that client. Once you've got the niche, yes, you can expand. And by the way, some of the world's biggest, new startup unicorns, now household names like Uber, started off with a niche. Take one metro area, take one market segment, take a specific type of person, be that a woman who is in, a mother, or, the San Francisco market, or physical therapists only if you're doing something in healthcare, and become really good at that and grow your market and your revenue there. And then what you want to do, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, you're able to learn and integrate into your ongoing business feedback when you have a smaller subset of, the entire universe that you're able to get feedback from. But also what it helps you do is become really good operationally, so that when you do expand, you're doing it correctly. Because the last thing you want to do is overstretch yourself and then, completely fizzle out, whether it's because you go bankrupt or you're not able to stick to your commitments or your reputation goes down the drain. So I definitely think niche is better. And yeah, I think that's a great start.
Have you heard of these, what are these blank check companies? Like they're called special purpose acquisition companies. Have you heard of it? Can we talk about those? Because I have a friend who's in underwriting in the insurance business, and they're underwriting a lot of these deals where the starters, the initial founders, I don't know, they put in 50 grand and then they go public with nothing in the company, raise $200 million, and then they go out into the world looking for businesses to buy. Right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's how they work. I think they've got a lot of press recently. They've been around for a while, but the volumes have really taken off this year in 2020. So we're seeing a lot more of these special purpose vehicles being set up and used. And that's causing, a lot more scrutiny around it. So there's a couple of reasons why investors do it and why a company may think about using this as a way to go public.
Okay.
But essentially, it reverse engineers your IPO so that you
went public first before.
Well, the company is a shell at a certain point in time, but it's already public before you get a company, a target tech company that is near IPO, and then you say, well, I can offer you a set price, right? That's the reason why someone might use one of these, a founder might use one of these special purpose vehicles, because to go and IPO on the market is a hugely volatile and daunting task. You might have built up a company, and then when you go public, the valuation is really driven so much by factors within your control, but also outside of your control. Specifically, things like the economic situation, the markets at that point in time, the appetite to take risk. So the SPACs offer a sort of a less volatile route to become.
So they're already public. They have stock that's listed on an exchange somewhere.
Exactly.
And then you're merging your company into that vehicle, and now you're public.
Yeah. So for someone who's investing in the SPAC, it's a bit of a gamble as well, because you are investing in a company and you don't know what company they're going to become, because eventually they will become probably a tech company. And because that they'll buy it and will take it into its IPO status. But what you're investing in is the name. Not everyone can do this. You've got to be like a really amazingly reputable hedge fund manager and an investor.
So they're investing in the person who's running this vehicle.
Yeah, the person and the team, and you're trusting them. And
Makes
that in
sense.
itself is also a risk, but it's a way to invest, and that's why it gets listed, and institutions and retail investors invest in it, and then they take the company public. The company itself may have got a higher valuation without using the SPAC, but at least it guaranteed them a price and it gave them a known path into IPO.
Why is there more interest in it now? Like what made
mainly because of COVID. I mean, the markets have been completely up and down this year. And if you're growing your company and you're thinking about IPO, it's pretty scary to watch the news every day and try and put your shares out onto the public market. So there's a lot more interest in using these SPACs to go public.
Interesting. Okay, well, I guess I kind of did understand them. But it's not, you have a small business. You're not getting into a SPAC right? I mean, you're too small. Most local business owners can't take advantage of that kind of stuff. You're talking tech companies that have $100 million opportunities, right, to grow. That's what they're looking for. It's like VCs. They don't want to invest in your company. They don't want to invest $250,000 in your company. It's too small for them.
No, it's too small. SPACs are only interested in companies that probably have about 100 million of recurring revenue or thereabouts, and they're going to go public with a high value.
Right, sure. Right, absolutely. All right. Do you have any, since we had talked about this before too, any advice for small business owners? Like, what do you do in these kind of crises, right? People have cash problems, and, what kind of recommendations do you have for people to kind of save their business? What do you go for money?
Yeah, I know it's been horrendous, especially this year for small businesses. And I think when it comes to advice, I always like to think about low-hanging fruit, but that which I see quite pervasively as a problem for most business owners. So I think first and foremost is really know your business from a cash perspective. like, how much money do you have in your bank account and what your key expense and cash flow items are. It's incredible the amount of people that don't know that, because as a business owner, you are pulled in so many directions.
Right.
That's probably the thing you might do at around 10 p.m. at night when the TV's on. And it's really hard to carve out time to do that. So I would really take the time to do that, not just to see what is going on today, but to plan ahead for the next 12 months or 5 years, just depending on what state you're in, but really have a plan for the future and stick to it. That's important. And also just get to know the key drivers of your cash better, right? Cash flow for small businesses is one of the biggest concerns. So is there anything happening right now to your suppliers or your customers that can indicate a problem down the road? Like if you're seeing that your customers are taking longer to pay, that could be something to look into. Even on the supplier side, is there anything you can do with postponing payment? And by that, I don't mean just not paying a bill.
Right.
Being proactive about reaching out to your suppliers, having a conversation, capitalizing on a relationship you might have had for 10 years. Now is a great time to take advantage of your reputation and your creditworthiness to ask for some leeway. So there's a lot you can do as a small business owner, starting with just really understanding your cash flow and the big drivers and having conversations and obviously trying to make sure that you've got the right cash coming in. The PPP loans are still obviously, most people have taken advantage of them that I know of, but it's really good to know the nuances of it. There's been a few iterations that have come out. And it can get very confusing. So it's really, that's something that it's good to be up to speed on as well.
Yeah, no, I think that a lot of times people, they don't realize that, they get into an arrangement with a vendor or a customer or whatever. And next thing you know, the vendor's somewhere in the fine print's paying them in 90 or 120 days. And they don't have the cash flow to deal with that. And I've had deals come through where I reviewed for clients and I said, well, can you afford to wait 90 days for payment? You always tell me you're in a cash crunch. Well, I don't think so, but how could I pass this up? I said, well, if it puts you out of business, then you might as well not do it at all. And, sometimes if you go back to the vendor and you say, listen, I want to do the business with you, but we can't wait 90 days for payment. Sometimes that's just their standard operating procedure and they'll make adjustments for you. Sometimes they won't.
Yes, but it's always worth asking, because otherwise you just don't know. And also, I think most companies, even big companies, are willing to be creative. So, it depends on what your specific problem is. But you might ask, for example, if you need that extra cash flow, maybe you have customers that owe you money and you could offer an early payment discount.
Right, discount, sure.
So, that's one way of getting more money. Or conversely, you could, your suppliers, maybe cash flow itself is not a big problem, but you're just generally worried about profitability. You can offer to pay your suppliers up front and pay less. If that, alleviates some of the actual expenses that are going out of the door ultimately over the course of a year.
Yeah.
So there's definitely ways to get creative about it.
I think even in inventory, they have dead inventory and it just sits there and they don't even pay any attention to it. If it's not moving, then liquidate it. Raise cash.
Yeah.
It may only be 5 cents on the dollar, 10 cents on the dollar, but it's more than zero.
Yeah, for many businesses, there's a real tension between working capital management and not building up too much inventory, which goes obsolete. That's a complete waste of money and cash down the drain. But at the same time, you want to be able to, adapt to volatility in customers' orders. Or, if you suddenly get a big order from a customer, you don't want to turn them down because you don't have the inventory. So that's a really tough balance to strike. And I think these are some of the areas where if you have some history in your business, an ability to sort of collect that data and really observe the trends that you're seeing, it can help you get better at deciding how much to invest in inventory and how to manage your working capital better.
Yeah, I think I was telling you about this company that we're looking at, the electronics company. They have 9 million of inventory on their books. Supposedly 6 million of it's less than 2 years old, but I'm sure that from a supply chain management function, it could be managed better. I mean, the world is a smaller place. I understand with coronavirus and everything, but that aside, there's probably a better way to manage it than keeping $9 million of inventory on hand at any given time.
Yeah, that's a lot. And you have to talk not just about the inventory cost, but you're storing it somewhere that's physical.
Yeah, it's enormous. Plus, but you're in a business that things can go obsolete like that. So if you're heavily invested in inventory and then it turns out that whatever it is, it's just dead shelf space now, it's a paperweight and you can't, then you got problems. So if there's better ways to manage it, I'm not saying that they can get rid of all their inventory. They can't, but they probably can manage it better than just, buying something. And they also don't manage if you have it on your shelf for 15 or 20 years and you paid 5 cents for it. And now you're finally selling it. Oh, we got $3 for it. Well, you better analyze. Did you really just because you paid 5 cents, now you're selling it for $3. If it took you 15 years, you might not have made any money.
Yeah, you probably didn't make any money, but at some point you have to make the most of what you've done. If past decision is done. Right. It's really about saying, well, what's the best I can do today? And, think you kind of have a bit of a bias because you bought that a while ago and you think you might be able to sell it at some point, probably worth it.
Yeah, you're like attached to it. It's like, you have people do that with stock purchases. They buy a stock and the stock goes down and they're like, no, I got to hold on to it, wait till it goes back up. Well, that may be just lost opportunity cost of something you can do with whatever it's worth now. And that's a better alternative than what it's doing now. It doesn't matter what happened in the past, no matter what going forward. A lot of people are stuck with those decisions.
Behavioral elements are a big component of business, of startups, of investing, and a lot of the strategies that work for businesses to grow and scale. It's for the business, but also for the people around it. So something as simple as a business plan. Well, yeah, everyone knows you need a business plan for a business to have a plan to grow and for you to strategically know how you're going to grow it.
Right.
But also you're human if you're a founder and a CEO and you're just going to go off track unless
you forget, you get distracted, you get obsessed with something. Yeah, you have to have those checks in place to go back to, get you back on the track. Hey, look, if you have to change the direction you're going, that's fine, but at least you do it with open eyes, right? And
with foresight, knowing the implications. And I think in some ways it's harder now because there's actually a lot more impact on your time. There's so much technology. Your phone is there, the apps are there. It's like people have difficulty focusing, and with so many things going on, it's so easy for something to fall off your radar and you just forget about it. And a day later, it's there's been a big impact.
Of course.
So having plans and processes in place when you're starting a business or growing a business is really a great way to stay on track.
Yeah. Well, you heard it here from Neeta Shah, international consultant, because you worked all around the world. You need a business plan. It's like my big pet peeve, the accidental entrepreneurs, because everybody's by accident, they become an entrepreneur, which I'm sure maybe it's really small business owner. Not everyone's an entrepreneur. And then they don't write a business plan. And then later on, they fail.
And also a business plan makes you feel good because most people, you have thoughts, you have ideas, but to have it really honed in on with strategic thinking, this is what, a business plan or a business model makes you do. It's a great feeling. It really is.
Yeah. And it gives you security, right? It gives you security. You feel like you have your hands around things. And obviously that gets away from you all the time and you have to kind of circle back, but that's why you have management and people like you and people that you consult with, and you try and stay on top of the team. Nobody's what do they call that? Nobody's a mountain in and of themselves, but I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm a big spreadsheet lover. I love spreadsheets for everything, personal life, business life. I think it's a great way to organize your life. So yeah, having a plan and a structure of tracking things, it's really important.
Yeah, I think the average small business owner doesn't even know how to open a spreadsheet, let alone use them. So, they can type words in the little boxes, but they can't make things like work in terms of, you're building a spreadsheet's a working computer model, really.
Right. Yeah.
If not, it's just a list of things that might as well be on a pad, but it's got to work where you change a variable and then it changes the result, right? A lot of people don't know how to do that.
A good business model will really allow you to say, well, how much do I need to, how many customers do I need to reach out to this month to know that 5 months down the line, my revenue will be this, because of all the lead times involved in the world. Like, a plan is forward looking, and so is a business model. So it really has to be built to do that. That's the aim of it. And then, what would be the impact of that on other parts of your business? So if you were to hire someone, what's the impact on your expenses? What would that mean for your sales? And
people should be doing what? Monthly cash flow analysis, right? Because you get things, if you do yearly cash flow analysis, things don't happen like evenly throughout the year.
Yeah, no.
The seasons, the ups and the downs, changes and things, whatever.
Yeah, I think monthly is a great cadence to have. You probably want to look at it more deeply quarterly. And it depends on your business. It may actually be weekly if you're growing and you're getting a lot of money in and it's changing week on week.
Right.
It's really about how often you feel like it's actually changing quite significantly. Monthly would be a minimum for sure.
Right,
and annually,
then you can see.
That word.
Annual's like a snapshot in time, doesn't mean anything. I also think that you got to look at things realistically, right? So a lot of business owners, when you lay things out and you say, you have to sell this product for $18.75 in order to make a profit and sell it to this many people. And they go, well, that's not going to happen. Everyone in the space sells it for $11. Maybe you got a problem. Before you lose all your money, you got to retool your whole business plan. Maybe you can't do it. Maybe you need to raise more capital. I don't know.
And that's the thing about a business model. It should also help you make some of those decisions. So you say, well, if I was to offer this discount, what's it going to do? What's going to be the impact on my overall revenue? And if I was going to raise these funds, then how would I use it? What would that generate for me? So there's a lot of questions that you ask yourself when you're thinking about a strategic decision. What if I expand internationally? Is that worth doing or not? How would I approach that? How would I size the market? How would I set up operations? What would be the impact of, on my revenue, on my expenses? So all those things are really important when you're making big strategic decisions.
I think a lot of professionals, lawyers specifically, we tend to discount our services, and we don't measure the profitability of what we're doing because, it's very easy to say, listen, I normally charge $3,000 for that work, but Neeta referred you to me, so I'll do it for $2,500. And you have no idea what your profitability is on something. Can you afford to do that or can you not? Are you just taking money out of your children's mouths? I mean, food out of your children's mouths and making it harder on yourself for $500? You're giving somebody a discount for what? And we tend to do it. It's very hard as a professional, like a consultant. You're a consultant too, so you're dealing with people. There's the people factor. They have a relationship with you. Can I pay you over time? This and that. It's hard. Sometimes you have to say yes, and you really don't want to, or you can't. And it's
and you also don't want to be myopic about it because at the end of the day, right, because you might actually, you give a bit of a discount, but actually you built a great relationship with someone. You've learned something, and that you might do such a great job that they refer you to someone else, or so. There's many reasons why businesses might want to give discounts that work out well in the end, but it's good to sort of have thought through what the impact is and in different scenarios. And
sometimes as a lawyer, you got to be careful because then they're going to refer you to people and the people are going to expect to pay the same thing that they're paying. And next thing you know, you're stuck in an industry within a group of a circle of people where they're expecting to charge, you're going to charge them a certain amount. And it's hard. So you raise the price back up for this person and then they talk to you and you go, really? Why did he charge you $3,000? He only charged me $2,100. Well, I charged you $2,100 because Aaron referred me to you, and then I charge the regular price, and then it comes back to haunt you. So it's definitely a delicate balance. it comes to.
Yeah, definitely. The pricing strategy is everything for all businesses, whether you're a consultant or a tech startup or a consumer business, manufacturing. You're really thinking about what's the right price point to do something, right?
Yeah.
And how do you and should it be a different price for different customers at different points in time? Just like with Uber, where if it's raining, your prices go up. And
they have surge pricing, right?
Yeah.
That's a crazy model. It's like the airlines. Like it's based on how close it is to the day how close it is to the day you're going, not whether the plane's full or not. It's a crazy pricing model.
Yeah, and ultimately you'd want your pricing model really to be driven by value that you're creating for that customer, which is why it's so important to know your customer's need and then, price it accordingly, but obviously taking into account what else is in the market and the competitive landscape and so on. So there's many factors to consider, but it's probably one of the biggest decisions any business owner will make because it's going to have, an impact on your sales. How many people are going to buy your product?
Yeah, I mean, the airline business, you don't have a lot of choices, right? You're traveling to a certain city, you got to go then, and there's only 2 airlines that go there. So what choice do you have?
Right, exactly. Well, not so much traveling right now by airline. So
you get real good deals now. You might die before you come home, but hey, you get real good deals. So Neeta, how can people get a hold of you, like interact with you? What's a good way to find you in the world?
You can visit my website, startupcfosolutions.com.
Okay.
And there's a variety of ways you can interact with me, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, drop me an email. So startupcfosolutions.com would be a great place to start. I'd love to have you come and visit me.
Okay. We'll put links in the show notes to your website and LinkedIn and all that type of stuff. Any parting words? Any last minute things you want to say before we get off the mic? I've taken up an hour of your time, so I appreciate it.
No, I just it's been awesome talking to you, Mitch, and just wanted to say thanks for listening.
You're welcome. Thank you.
If you like the podcast, please tell others about us. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, on Amazon Music, and many of the other podcast directories. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review and feel free to share our episodes on social media. If you have any questions or comments, ideas for the show, or you'd even like to appear as a guest, reach out to us by email at info@beinhackerlaw.com. The Accidental Entrepreneur is hosted and produced by me, Mitch Beinhacker. If you'd like more information about my legal services, you can find me on social media or visit my website at beinhackerlaw.com. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe to our feed to be notified of all future episodes.